Well, here we are with the original John Singer Sargent watercolor, and I'm going to attempt to copy it. You can see the vibrancy of the colors and the brilliant light of this afternoon. I can feel him sitting by the water on a sunny day as it is, and it's a very clear day and the air is very sweet, and he has his watercolors, so I went along with the way I think that he worked. He worked with wet watercolors, translucent watercolors. He worked very fast, I understand. He would just lay down his colors, and if something was too wet, he would go to another area. And the simplicity of the sky in the background, the wonderful rich volume, the richness of the main boat, the main melon boat in the middle, all the shapes that he uses, the blowing sail, the masts. His colors are luminous at times and sometimes very opaque also. Clearly the hulk of the boat is very strong, and to convey the strength of it, he is using dark ultramarine colors. The water is wavy, it is being moved, there might be a slight breeze in the air. It all kind of feels as if he wanted to, or if he had actually focused his eye kind of right into the center of the painting. Every shape is the shape that it's supposed to be, but it's also abstracted at the same time. I have these little palettes, and I want each color to have its own little container, so that when I use them for mixing, they're not blended in with anything else. And I have a lemon yellow, which was one of his colors. Gamboge, which is a very warm yellow. I have the rose madder. So I think I will take a little raw umber also. Perhaps a little green. Okay. So these are basically the color palette that he worked with. Transparent watercolors, and then he also worked with gouache, but this has more fillers in it, and these will give you an opaque look, and it will also cover what is underneath it. I understand he liked big brushes, so I brought my biggest brushes. I did a pencil drawing the way he did in his work. He drew out the shape of the big sail and some of the mast in here. So, and it goes sort of at a rounded angle a little bit. Yeah, I can see pencil lines here for this boat, and I can see the large boat also being penciled in. Comes the back of the boat. So 7/4 patch. So after the drawing, I started with the thinnest paints, the transparent paints, and then slowly worked up these layers of different colors, especially in the sail. So this was, in the tube of paint, this was a deep dark cobalt blue, but then thinned out with water, we get this very transparent color. And I think I'll lay down a few of the basic colors into this boat now, because some are light. He works with sometimes a really wet brush, as in here, with a lot of water, and then a very dry brush. Dry meaning not much water and not too much paint. I knew that the purest and cleanest colors would be the colors that kind of show the white of the paper still behind it. And in this particular painting, it was the sky and certain areas of the sea, of the blue sea down below. Kind of, it's such a jungle of stuff going on. It's for this area in here, right next to this lavender. Okay, that's it. Here, little melons, and down here. By beige. Okay, this little area seems to be underneath here. And more. I come down like that. And pulls it over the blue. And over this also. Okay. Very wet. And you see this line here, where the blue is just running right into the beige while it's dry on top. Ooh. Nope. I think the ground needs to be a little wetter to get that bleeding from the blue. I think these are the rolled up sails here. One is very pale and white. The mast sits on blue. There are a lot of layers going on here. I'm looking for this line here, which I think is the mast. He drew out the shape of the mast in here so that he himself had a guide, and that's what I wanted to work with also. You know, with watercolor, one layer upon another color always gives you another color, but they're always very unpredictable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started with the thinnest paints, the transparent paints, and then slowly worked up these layers of different colors, especially in the sail. There may be 5 or 6 different layers of different colors on top of this area. There are beiges underneath the sail, which makes the transparent watercolor, gives it more body. They call it gouache body color also. One can tell from the consistency of the paint whether it was a thicker gouache paint or if it was a transparent watercolor. And I could tell right away that paints like these areas in here were of the thicker kind, of the gouache kind, which is an opaque watercolor, while these areas in here would be the transparent paint. I think he mixed this particular area of paint with an opaque white, as for instance in these highlights down here on the water. They were dark blue, but by putting these white highlights on it and then repainting them with a little orange, he got the effect of light being reflected in the water. He also used a technique called dry brush, where he would load his paint onto a brush and then just very lightly pull it over the surface, the ground underneath. And what you can see is that just some of the paint will touch the paper and stay on the paper. Okay. Well, this is my painting, or my version of a painting that John Singer Sargent did. And I had to figure out what layers he used to get all the different effects of color and light. With the original John Singer Sargent watercolor, you can see the vibrancy of the colors and the brilliant light of this afternoon, the simplicity of the sky in the background, the wonderful rich volume, the richness of the main boat, the main melon boat in the middle, little ones on the side. So I tried to follow really truly as much as I could all the shapes that he uses. The blowing sail, the masts, the little melons in the background. There is only one color underneath this brown, and I didn't know if it was ultramarine or cobalt, but I put down a blue, the blue of the sky, and then I pulled a little bit of ochre over it to try to come close to this particular color here. He painted very fast. I can just see from the way the color is laid down. He really truly just mixed it in his palette, and then he laid it down. Even when he lays colors on top of other colors, you can just feel the, not a hurry, but he never stopped. I get the feeling that he didn't take a break when he painted this. He just sat down and he just really painted it until he was happy with it. I tried to get some of the looseness into it, the looseness and the freedom into it, and the freshness. And those are our two paintings.